an in-memory multi-model database famous for its sub-millisecond latency. It was created in 2009 based on the idea that a cache can also be a durable data store. Around this time, apps like Twitter were growing exponentially and needed a way to deliver data to their end users faster than a relational database could handle. Redis, which means remote dictionary server, was adopted by some of the most heavily trafficked sites in the world because it changed the database game by creating a system where data is always modified or read from the main computer memory as opposed to the much slower disk. But at the same time, it stores its data on the disk so it can be reconstructed as needed, which means the database is fully durable, supporting things like snapshots and backups. Every data point in the database is a key followed by one of many different data structures, like a string, list, hash, or stream, so you can store data naturally just like you would with your favorite programming language, as opposed to squeezing it into a bunch of tables or JSON documents. Interacting with the database is handled with a simple set of commands, like set followed by a key and value to create data, then get followed by a key to read data. Historically, Redis has been described as a key value store and is often used as a cache to make relational databases faster at scale. But here's where your mind is about to be blown. Redis is perfectly suitable as a primary database and can dramatically reduce complexity because making things go fast at scale is the primary cause of complexity in the first place. With Redis, your database is already fast. No need for a complex caching layer. But you might be wondering, how do I model complex relationships? Today, Redis is what you would call a multi-model database, supporting a variety of different database paradigms with add-on modules that you can opt into as needed. If your data contains relationships, bring in Redis Graph and query it with Cypher, or use the JSON module to structure your data as a hierarchy, just like a document-oriented database. Then use the search module to turn your database into a full-text search engine, and it even has modules for AI workloads, time series data, and more. The quickest way to get started is the free tier on Redis Enterprise Cloud. That'll give you a free database to play around with, and you can attach one extra module to it. Then you can connect to it with the Redis CLI or with the Redis Insight tool, which contains an interactive dashboard to manage your data. This has been Redis in 100 seconds. But what do you guys think? Would you use Redis as your primary database? Let me know why or why not in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Redis.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the session today. Today's technology presents a massive opportunity for financial services companies to improve productivity and increase sales and financial returns. In this session, we will cover how a real-time data platform can unlock the growth potential for banks and financial services companies and help them increase their financial returns by streamlining their workflows and decision-making process. Before we jump into the topic, I will quickly walk you through the housekeeping notes. The audience is on mute by default, and if you have any questions or wish to speak, please raise your hands, and we'll be happy to unmute you from our side. And we love to keep this session interactive, so please feel free to respond if any questions on Q&A session or on the chat. Now, going to the agenda. In today's session, we will discuss the use cases, applications, and overview of Redis. We will also discuss a few problem statements in the industry. If time permits, and we'll open it up for a discussion with some problem statements as well. Hope you will find it informative. Feel free to send your questions in the Q&A session or chat channels. Let's keep it as interactive as possible. Now, coming to our speakers for this session. Prasanna Rajagopal is Industry Solution Architect joining us from the States, who has spent over 20 years in software industry in engineering and customer-facing roles at companies such as Oracle and Dell. He has spent his last decade working with customers in pre-sales role, helping them architect solutions for their various business challenges, and has been with Redis for more than a year. We also have Suyog Kale, our in-house expert, who has 18 years of experience in software industry. He has extensive experience as a software architect, having worked at various software and product-based companies. He has played a major role in helping banks to certify Redis Enterprise and help in massive migrations from traditional cache solutions like Coherence, Gemfire, JVM to Redis Enterprise. He's the author of the book Redis Deep Dive. So now I'm gonna pass it over to Prasanna to start the presentation.
Thank you, Rakila. Thank you for that kind introduction. I love this company. I love my job. This is the best chance I have to make the world a better place, said Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, in a presentation to his investors. This is the best chance you and I have to make this world a better place. So let's not lose this once in a lifetime opportunity. Once in a lifetime opportunity. Here are some annual technology spending examples. This once in a lifetime opportunity is why companies like JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup, and others spend billions on their software and digitization efforts each year. For example, JP Morgan is spending 14 billion in 2022 alone, and Citigroup is spending 11 billion in their digitization efforts. Digital banking and financial services lower costs, increase access to financial services, and uplifts people and communities. Immense rewards await companies that become digital leaders. Digital services make banks more efficient, increase productivity, and improve profitability and financial performance. I am not making up these statements. I'm going to prove it to you during the course of this presentation. Bank of America has spent $35 billion over the past 12 years on their digitization goals. JP Morgan has budgeted $14 billion for 2022. What are they getting for all this spending? Well, a lot in terms of lower costs, increased customer engagement, and a massive increase in scale. Bank of America has transformed how it operates as a bank. A massive number of features not available in 2015 are now available on their mobile app. In 2015, just 66% of the Bank of America's client interactions were digital. Today, 84% of its 15 billion client interactions per year are digital. JP Morgan has significantly increased its global scale in the past decade with its technology investments. It has 60 million active digital customers and over 11 billion annual digital logins. JP Morgan has over 500 petabytes of data in its storage. Imagine the analytics they can conduct on that vast data and the customer insights they can gain from that data. The banks prioritizing and implementing a digital strategy are reaping significant financial rewards. DBS Bank, based in Singapore, was named the best digital bank in the world in 2021 by Euro Money magazine. Their CFO said in the annual report that our bank's digital segment continues to grow in size within the bank. 81% of the bank's income and 96% of its operating profit comes from its digital segments. Imagine that 96% of the bank's operating profit came from digitized services. Overall, the CFO found the financial return measured by return on equity was 23% for digital channel compared to a meager 5% for the traditional channel. She also found that cost to income ratio of the traditional banking channel is much higher at 88% compared to just 46% for the digital medium. There is no doubt that the digital medium offers superior profitability for a financial services company. The CEO of DBS Bank, Piyush Gupta, mentioned that there is still value in having physical banking centers. Any bank has to equip the bankers at their physical locations with data and insights to conduct their job efficiently and profitably. Yes, digital transformation is a top priority for these banks, but where are they investing their technology budgets? In the consumer banking space, the mobile app continues to be a key focus area for feature enhancements. Banks are adding more features and combining multiple apps into a single application. These banks want their app to be the only place for their clients' financial needs. Banks are also creating analytic dashboards for their bankers to have the right insights to drive conversations with their clients and position the appropriate products. Analytics and machine learning is driving all segments of the financial services industry. Under the community banking segment, banks are adding more features to their small business payments platform and looking at ways to personalize the experience for the small business owner. Workflow automation is a feature getting much traction within the banking industry. The need for real-time data is a common theme that connects all these use cases. These use cases must scale to support client needs and deal with massive data sets. Without real-time data, achieving the speed and scale to delight the customer is very challenging. These massive opportunities in the financial banking and financial services industry, such as the need to create highly responsive and personalized experience, the need to scale, the need to serve millions of customers simultaneously, the need to keep apps available for use by a customer at any time. These are the needs that have driven the popularity of Redis. The open source version of Redis is the most downloaded database in the world. By any measure, Redis is a very popular database. Redis has a very engaged community of developers. The product is very easy to get started with. It took me just 2 hours to write an app using Redis. As I mentioned earlier, Redis has its roots in open source. The open source version offers simple data structures such as strings and sets that you can use to build a super fast application. Redis Enterprise expands Redis open source and offers multi-model support with many features that enterprises need to run their applications in production. Redis Enterprise is built on top of the Redis open source database and has all the features of Redis open source plus other features such as clustering, linear scalability, and 5.9 availability. For example, Redis Enterprise can be deployed in a data resiliency architecture called active-active. Yes, Redis Enterprise offers the reliability and high availability features that banks and financial services companies need. The feature that gets me most excited about is the multi-model database support. You can create search indexes on your data using Redis Search and have super fast search feature in your application. If your application needs to store JSON documents, we offer Redis JSON as a module in the Redis Enterprise version. Some of our customers have a need to store and query their data as a graph. Redis Graph offers that feature. If you are creating a brokerage application and you need to display stock prices, you need a time series database for that, and Redis time series can do that for you. In short, you can cover all your application needs using Redis Enterprise. You don't have to use multiple databases in your application and deal with all that complexity. Redis Enterprise is available on all 3 major clouds. Redis Enterprise is a first-party native Azure service. Now you can access all the Redis Enterprise features and modules using Redis JSON, Redis Search, and others in Azure Cache for Redis Enterprise. Azure Cache for Redis Enterprise is fully managed by Microsoft with a 5.9 SLA. Redis Enterprise is available on GCP and AWS Marketplace, and they are fully managed with the 5.9 availability as well. Suyog, what are the deployment patterns you are seeing based on your experience of working closely with financial services across Asia? Can you please comment on that from your experience?
Thanks, Prasanna. Mostly the larger banks that were working there is 2 types of model I have seen closely, right? So one is all the on-premises applications which are completely offline in terms of the data accessibility. It is completely deployed in the private clouds, and because every application is going today not only disaster recovery point of view deployments, but also they're taking care of that it's ready for deploying one or multiple data centers in an active mode. So that way the deployments for Redis and other technologies as well is, they're trying to focus on basically active. Um, Redis comes with completely offline installations and very private, accessibility point of view. There are a lot of security features we have in the enterprise, so that help them, to make sure that the same technology is available with a full set of security. And second part of journey where digitalization growth, and because there are a lot of other public cloud services which they want to leverage, right? So that way, certain applications which are not that, data security point of restrict, they are moving towards public clouds. So that way, they are deploying those applications into AWS, Azure, or GCP, and there are also Redis. Here is I have seen, like, the applications which are really looking towards, hybrid cloud deployments. Maybe some applications which are having important data into their on premises, and then when they process, certain data that they can basically use for other merchant applications or other applications that they are opening as open API. They are basically moving that data to, let's example, public cloud. So that way, we has worked with many use cases where the Redis was used as a, streaming or, data replication from on premises to public cloud. So yeah, hybrid cloud deployments is also getting a lot of traction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Suyog. So some of the most prominent financial services institutions, fintechs, insurance companies, delivery companies, and retailers worldwide have deployed Redis Enterprise with a very high level of availability. So when you need to achieve this high performance, very low latencies, I hope you will consider Redis Enterprise in the future. Before we share a few customer stories, we are going to conduct a short poll. The poll question should be coming up pretty soon. Just give us a second. Yeah, there you go. So there are, I believe there are 2 questions in this poll. What are your business goals for investing in digital transformation projects? Is it to increase customer acquisition rate, enhance your customer experience, automate financial services workflow? Those are the options. And remove inefficiencies in workflows, drive customer insights for bank employees through advanced analytics, enhance AI ML capabilities. Automation, I see that one person's responded with automation and remove inefficiencies in the workflow. These are all, we are seeing this. Suyog works with a lot of customers in Asia. He's seeing this often, removing the inefficiencies, making things faster, scaling things. Let's see what the other question was. And how have your digital transformation plan changed in the last 12 months? You're planning to take it to the next level. We are seeing that more and more. There's too much competition in the banking and financial services industry, especially in many of the Asian countries. And there is a need to be ahead of your competition to make sure you can keep up with the market share and try to gain even more market share. Suyog, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think digital transformation has been like, a journey for each and every applications where there is a high throughput requirement and, a lot of personalizations, right? Because I see that the banks are really towards focusing on the, personalizations for the users, giving them better experience in terms of the transactions and the payments. But as well as there is a lot of other applications where the bank is, giving them experience. I will tell you some examples like, when you are basically using mobile payments, right? How easily when you basically traveling from one place to another place, the transaction experience has been like drastically changed. I remember a few years it was very difficult when you had to carry your wallets and a lot of different assets to prove you that you are basically owning these accounts. And again, some places where it was very difficult to even use the cards, right? But now most of the payment applications, you are on a mobile and you just swipe and it's good to go. So that is not easy because there is a lot of security things in place, and fraud things are happening as well. But the way banks are basically moving and utilizing best technology out of different platforms, right? So maybe the fraud analysis implemented using, let's example, GCP cloud services. Maybe your transaction is handled through, let's example, on-premise deployments, and there is a lot of traffic is handled in terms of when you are swapping at the ATM, merchant locations, or person to person. So there's a lot of ecosystem there where the bank has been putting efforts, and uh, I have seen, like, many cases the Redis has been played a crucial role because the high demand of traffic. And obviously, when you perform certain use cases like a fraud analysis, right, you don't want to change or impact the experience for 99% organic traffic. So yeah, it's a way seen drastically change in the banking.
Yeah, thank you, Suyog. And so moving on to our next section here, we're going to be talking about a few customer stories, and the we are well aware of the fact that across the globe there has been a revolution in payments workflows, and Suyog was just touching upon that fact. So consumers across the globe have wholeheartedly adapted digital wallets and payment apps. They use these apps to pay for all their expenses. It becomes very seamless, and so Suyog just pointed that out. Nowadays, when a consumer sends a payment to someone, they expect instantaneous delivery and settlement of that payment. They cannot stand any delays. Now, the business-to-business payments has joined this revolution. Consumer payments were, in the last 10, 15 years, it's just been remarkable innovation and growth in consumer payments. Now, business-to-business payments, when a factory buys something, pays a supplier, you want to automate that entire workflow now and make it easier, make it more real-time, make it more accessible to the company, and make their life more easier. That has become an important part of this. Many businesses manage vast number of suppliers and make numerous purchases to run their business each day. With real-time B2B payments, they are able to simplify the end-to-end process of managing purchase orders and invoices. These companies have better control of their cash and have a real-time view of their cash positions globally, since many of these companies operate globally. They are also able to better manage their cash liquidity positions. There is an excellent presentation on YouTube from our Redis conference by the architect of the new payment systems at Capital One. You can watch it by scanning the QR code on this slide. Capital One is an American bank founded 28 years ago in 1994. It now operates 100% in the cloud. The bank's customers have embraced mobile banking and expect a real-time customer experience. They are also the 5th largest payments processor in the US, processing over 1.5 billion payments across their consumer and commercial lines of businesses. Their payments team, led by Mike Lee, was looking to scale their payments application and make those services work in real time. They leverage a streaming, event-driven microservices architecture throughout their business. They use Redis Enterprise as the database for many of their microservices. A real-time architecture allowed them to assess the status of every payment in real time. Suyog, you had briefly touched upon the payment space. You have a lot of experience working with customers in the payment space. You have helped architect payment solutions for banks in Asia. Can you please share your thoughts on the payment space and some of the things that are going on, especially in places like India with UPI? Thank you, Suyog.
Yeah, thanks, Prasanna. Yeah, so see, the payment space, the challenge here is basically because of the heavy traffic, right? And the way payment system has been implemented with the traditional solutions, especially I will call it for relational databases, right? The challenges was basically when you are performing transaction, there's a lot of things happen back in the scenes for this payment system, right? So they have to do authentication, authorizations, check the balance checks, and when they're performing all this transaction, there is at least 10 to 15 queries happening to the relational databases, right? And you know, relational databases are basically stable structures. There's a lot of complexity when you perform joins and inner joins kind of things. So in short, there is a problem with these relational databases, which are only built for vertical scale and they cannot really horizontal scale. And imagine at the same time, if XYZ reason that particular database is stuck, you can't really have high ability, you know, performing transactions from other way. So you are basically taking downtime for your user base, right? Which is not something can be accepted in today's world. So this is the common challenge. And I have seen like, you know, because Redis is built for performance, most of the, I mean, all top tier banks I work in the India and also in the bigger organizations in the APAC banks, we closely work for solving this problem first, right? So 99% my common use cases was, you know, payment solutions. And then we move this implementations, perform all these transactions into the Redis. And then once the transaction is complete, whether it is successful or failed, it will write back to the relational database, right? So that way, the user experience in terms of performing this, you know, payment through the Redis was scalable. How Redis did this differently is basically, obviously, Redis is a key value pair, is support horizontal scale. So whether it is a 10,000 transaction you are performing at the same time, you are maybe millions of transactions at the same time, it can still grow and allow you to, you know, give the you know, improvement. At the same time, there was other challenges, performing fraud analysis, certain rule engines, like whether this is a fraud transaction. So all this transaction kind of a scoring kind of a use inference queries, right? It was also possible at real time because Redis can give you that kind of an experience. And then some banks has their own implementations for traditional way of, you know, performing ML and all those things. So they also wanted some real time you know, cache engines which can give that, you know, the real time data entries so that they can quickly perform that inference queries and get. So these are the classic examples I have seen across all payment system into the Indian and the APAC banks. But another classic example, UPIs, right? So I think world is moving towards unified payment systems, right? So today, if I'm in India, tomorrow I'm traveling to Singapore, Europe, America, I want you know, unified pay. I don't want 10 different applications or 10 different card to carry, do the payments, right? So that's where I think the handshake is happening and UPI is very successful. UPI has already proven in India the largest setup ever because of the COVID, whether it is a 10 rupees of transactions or $10 of transaction. This is bringing me experience that I can have only one applications, and whether I'm in India or Singapore, I will able to use these applications and then perform this. So obviously back in the scene, there is a lot of handshake need to be done between your bank and then the beneficiary bank, whether it is a person to person or person to merchant. So a lot of scoring and a lot of, you know, settlement is not to be done. So this is also a classic example where we have worked with these banks, you know, using Redis enterprise technology. And last thing is giving Redis is coming with active deployment or multi-cloud deployment. It ease out, you know, your deployment rather than, you know, basically doing a lot of heavy lifting on the application side. So Redis does support you active, passive, or active deployment in multiple regions. So that way, you can imagine, you know, whether it is a disaster recovery scenarios or distributing your load, it is ready for, you know, that upcoming traffic that you can, you know, can't imagine like how the scale will be happening. Right?
Yeah. Thank you for that perspective, Suyog. Interesting, fascinating things going on in the payment space as you highlighted. Thank you for sharing those stories with us.
Yeah.
Okay, next example. Ekata helps prevent fraud. It primarily sells its services to e-commerce, financial services, and payment companies. To automate the process of onboarding new vendors onto a platform or help customers open new account, Ekata verifies the authenticity of businesses and people by using identity graph built on Redis Enterprise. Their goal is to reduce friction in verifying financial transactions while at the same time keeping their infrastructure costs low. Ekata has built a massive database of 5 billion keys with Redis. Their previous in-memory solution was too expensive to operate for their scale. Ikata settled on Redis on Flash for the deployment on AWS. Ikata is a great example of how Redis helped them achieve their business goals with our solutions. These two quotes from the SVP of Engineering, Varun Kumar, summarizes how Redis directly addressed their business goals. Ikata has sub 100 millisecond latency requirements according to Varun Kumar. Redis on Flash reduced the RAM usage, thus saving money while meeting their strict latency requirements. So you're trying to attach and achieve your business goals using Redis as a solution. This last example is a multinational bank based in the US. This is a long-time Redis customer. They use Redis Enterprise and its multi-model capabilities across various business processes and use cases, including entitlements, P&L reporting, fraud detection, balance forecasting, and more. This bank recently started using Redis Enterprise to implement an online feature store, which enhanced their custom machine learning algorithm to evaluate transaction risk scoring in real time. With Redis, you could access features, score, and derive inferences across millions of accounts, each holding hundreds of transactions with sub-millisecond latency at very high throughput. Speed, scale, and always-on capabilities are the three core requirements for this bank, and Redis meets these requirements. This is why they keep expanding on their use of Redis. Suyog, you talked about, I think you briefly talked about active-active. From your experience, what are some of the Redis features that are very popular in within the within the banking and financial services sector in Asia? And can you highlight why that is popular? Maybe talk about that, please.
Yeah, so rightly you shown under Redis capabilities, right? So active-active is, I think most of, or what I can say that all the banks today who are using Redis Enterprise, their production deployment is active-active.
Okay.
And the reason behind is obviously the RBI compliance or any APAC banks, their government compliance, that applications should be highly available. Though they don't have right now all the applications deployed as active-active, because Redis is coming by default feature as active-active, the deployment, all the productions is active-active, and this enables them to, smooth switch between production DC to DR sites, right? And now most of the banks are also coming like, there is the DC site, which is the main traffic is coming primary site, and there is a near DC. So just to make sure that in case if the DC is down, there is a, maybe 100 kilometer or 200 kilometers of physical, but different data center. And there is a far DR, which is probably 800 kilometers far away, and it just basically compliance point of view that they need. But traditionally, it was completely kind of, cold DR, where, I mean, organization used to take hours to, take over and all those failures, and the experience for user was service is down, right? But today you can't offer with that. So, and because Redis is coming with active-active, this was easy for organizations to go with Redis active-active and do the switch, I mean, within a millisecond, the switch over. And because Redis comes with the config resolution and the replication at real time, so as the user, you will not even feel that, I'm disconnected, because even my request is going to, let's say example, DC1, and maybe the DC is down, that request goes to other side, and because your the user session is there, even I'm using mobile banking application, I will not feel that I'm disconnected, right? So this is the experience is really working. And then organization don't need to build that kind of a configuration at application side, which is a really difficult job in terms of managing the config resolution. This was a classic win for us in most of all the banks. The second thing is a multi modeling, right? So imagine whether you have fraud analysis use case, whether you are performing transaction scoring, whether you are just performing simple session management, or transactions, or in transit data processing, you cannot really rely on a relational databases, and then it's very difficult to put a different type of data, and imagine the scale of millions of records processing at the same time. So Redis key value pair really did different jobs here, and because it's very easy in terms of, if I'm developer or basically architect, it's very easy for me to understand, what is the right data model I should be using for payments, what is the right data model I should be using for transaction storage. So this way, the multi-modeling really help us to, bringing those solutions to our customer. Streaming is another classic example. I love Redis stream, as this is my primary data structure I normally see. And the streaming is basically Redis stream is kind of a message queue, right? So imagine your trading solutions, imagine you are performing microservice implementation, notification implementations, and there are many such implementation which is a common across all your primary use cases, right? And the Redis stream has been very popular there because of the performance. It's very agile. It is a very in terms of performance, it's really giving better results. And then we have JSON store, right? JSON store. I mean, most of the applications today we build using JSON. You don't want to build that serialization, deserialization mechanism at heavy lifting at the application side, right? So JSON store is a very common use case for most of the catalogs data or the documents kind of use cases. Search is a classic example. We have built very common use cases with larger banks, and search was a classic example there. So imagine you have customer demographic informations and account informations or their card informations, right? Performing the search indexes. I'm talking about, let's say, 10,000 to 20,000 search queries per second, and with a sub-millisecond latency, right? So this is something where the banks was using relational databases and was taking 6 seconds, 16 seconds kind of experience. We have done like 100 and 1,000 times, but much better experience, right? So this is something we had used the search, and there are other modeling. So point here is flexibility of deployment model with the minimal efforts at the bank side, multi-modeling capabilities so that you innovatively build a different solutions. And last thing is a performance, which is a core requirement today in terms of any use case that you solve for the user, right? So this is something, core, I mean, primary things that we work. Obviously, it comes with security, right? So I feel it's for any organizations. So mostly all these organizations, we did the first step was for security compliances. So we took all those vulnerability checks, security checks, and enterprise has already proven on classic banks examples. So yes, that was also another example to certify and make sure that the technology is supporting all those features.
Yeah, I mean, you cover all the bases, right? I mean, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing those stories, especially the security story, which is so important for the BFSI sector, and the JSON, Redis JSON. Streams is such an interesting feature. Thank you. Thank you, Suyog. And I believe we have a few more questions. It's going to come up right now. So, here are a couple of questions. What is the most difficult part of your digital transformation efforts? Suyog maybe touched upon some of this, like the multiple data sources, increasing scale while reducing latency. That is always it proves to be a challenge. I think Suyog pointed that out early on in his comments. Siloed data sources, and which of the following best describes your infrastructure strategy: single cloud, hybrid, multi-cloud? So, I mean, we like Suyog was describing, hybrid is pretty famous. It's still, I don't think it's going to go anywhere for a while because there is so much. Many of the banks that were formed 20, 30, 40 years ago, they still have many apps that they've developed, which is running in their own data centers, and it is proving to be very difficult to move those apps into the cloud fully. So you need to have an hybrid deployment. Suyog talked about maybe moving some of the data to modernize the app, and so that they could also share the data among multiple apps. That's one way to modernize it, and banks are looking to do it. So thank you for sharing your thoughts, and we really appreciate that. And we have some resources that's available for you to further your reading, your knowledge. you can use some of these resources. There's a lot more resources on our website, so you can go use that. And we are pretty much open to questions right now.
Hey, thanks, Prasanna. Thanks, Yog. So just to cover, so there are like the last thing is more about like what are the problem statements in the industry. So while we have some questions getting into the question Q&A session, let's discuss some problem statements as well at this point. In a traditional bank, many of the applications that you both described involve multiple silo data sources.
Yeah.
How do you break down silos?
It's we had that poll question too. It is like almost all the banks, they have many different applications. And say, for example, your savings account, your checking account, your current account, your fixed deposit, those that might be one. Your banking side of it might be one application. You might have another application where you have the payments application, and you have asset management where you buy your mutual fund securities and all that stuff. You have all these different applications. Each of them has their own siloed data sets, and you need to be able to break that down. One way to do that, we make it very easy for you, and is to use a feature with Redis Enterprise called Redis Connect, which is essentially a change data capture tool, which you can connect to various relational databases, and then bring data from those relational databases into Redis. And now you are able to get that real-time performance of Redis and modernize your application without having to go through a lot of trouble of trying to take that relational database and make it faster, which could be really expensive. Suyog, any thoughts, any further thoughts on that? So,
yeah, the question is, I mean, I can relate certain use cases for data silos, right? So, see, and this data is coming in a different models. I mean, basically, every entity is in a different format, and again, every data need a different types of response and different level. Example, somebody is changing card pin, or let's say somebody is generating new password, which is you want to respond that in a second's time, or let's say less than seconds time. In some cases, somebody is creating new account, right? Somebody's creating portfolio. So this information is coming, and because you are building different applications in a loosely coupled fashion, you want to make sure that you are passing this information internally into the different buckets, and then there is a right processing is happening. And before even responding back to the applications, you also want to make sure that all sort of analysis of data, and that's where the scale, the different types of data processing, and all different types of analogs, basically where the data is also make sure that it's organic and all those things. And then again, you have analytical systems as well, right? So so here I have seen, like we help not only helping to solve the problems, but also the way Redis ecosystem is today, like you mentioned, Prasanna, Redis Connect, right? So basically how we can bringing or support other technology ecosystems to work with Redis or vice versa. So yeah, we have certain solutions that we replace for replacing Kafka or Oracle quick streams, where there was a challenges, but the migrations towards production was very easy because the way we had built the ecosystems. We have customer who has used this Redis Connect, right? Basically how they can bringing the Oracle data or MySQL data into the Redis, and then serve the application traffic in a different ways, using probably the search index, JSON store, the stream data structures. So this is something where and it's going to be happen, like you'll have different type of sort of data. You'll have a lot of massaging, transforming, and before even responding or processing that data. So yeah, this is
thank you.
happening
Thank you.
today. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things that are you want to be able to achieve uh, good productivity. You want to get things done faster. Some of the things that you're highlighting is are critical to getting that productivity up, so that you can get along with modernizing your app rather than trying to deal with the database.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one more example, if you can take another 30 seconds. So,
Sure.
Prasanna was showing the slide where Bank of America in 2015, they was completely, I mean, most of the applications was manual, right? You used to go and call or visit. But
Yeah.
look at those 10, 15 applications completely digitalized. Imagine the massive data is getting available in the cloud, and at the same time you have to process that huge data, right? So the whole ecosystem around the data lakes, data pipelines, and performing analytical use cases or real-time use cases, or even the feature set point of view, right?
Yeah.
Is a huge data need to be processed at right time. If we don't do that right now, processing at right time, there's a useless. I mean, the data is not going to be useful, right? So this really helping, in terms of Redis. I mean, I've seen the Redis has been like first choice of solution for real-time data processing.
Yeah.
So I have seen that use cases closely working with the banks.
Yeah, I mean, what some of the banks that you work with very closely, what they have achieved in just the last few years, seeing you talk about some of the applications uh, with us, is just astounding what they have achieved in few short years in terms of progress in digitization of their apps across multiple segments. So fascinating stuff. It's just the world is moving at a really fast pace. Rakila, back to you.
Yeah, that's nice to hear, and that leads to the second question, where you guys have worked with a lot of frontline employees at the bank and in financial services companies. It would be interesting for folks who are also wanna join the race, right? If you can just help us with some trends that you're seeing in enabling those frontline employees at banks and financial services companies. What are some trends there?
It's like what the CEO of DBS Bank highlighted this. He talks about it from a phygital. It is like physical plus digital services. You cannot be fully digitized. Banks still need some physical locations so that customers can come in and interact and get advice from their bankers. But then these bankers need to be knowledgeable about the needs and anticipate needs that a customer will have, and that has to be driven by advanced analytics now. So you've just pointed this out. The amount of data that Bank of America is capturing, JP Morgan is capturing, DBS Bank is capturing. You need to be able to utilize all that and then provide analytics in real time in front of the banker when he's working with a customer. It might be he might be helping them set up some investments for their retirement, or maybe a school funding, or setting up a loan, or maybe even offering credit card offers. What should be the best offer for this customer that would meet their needs, and they would go for it and generate revenue for the bank? Those are all very tough questions to answer, and you want to have the best analytics possible in front of the banker, especially when you're dealing at the scale at which you're dealing with the petabytes of data. Plus, you need to be able to generate the analytics quickly and show it. That's very difficult to do. And that's where something like, we see banks creating these good dashboards coupled with AI, ML workflows, advanced analytics, you name it. They got those, and they are giving those insights to the bankers. I will hand it over to Suyog if he's got any, if he wishes to share any thoughts on this.
Yeah, so also look at the chatbot applications every bank has, right? I mean, how easy you get the chatbot experience, like somebody sitting next to, I mean, bank side, and they are responding and giving the personalized experience, right? So this is obviously you need to feed that your domain knowledge or your product portfolio knowledge for these chatbots, and they will learn. And the way, and again, multilingual support, right? Depends on what what kind of language you are trying to ask, and the response you are getting. This is changing the bank experience and the employees. For them, it's easiness of And when you are also using chatbot is one application, but imagine phone banking, SMS banking, right? The experience on a different ways and different types of interfaces that banks are building. It's also giving a lot of ideas and the innovations the banks are doing. You need basically more talented people who can come up with these ideas, and again technologies to support these solutions, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you, Suyo.
Okay. Thanks, guys. If I think this is one more interesting thing is how is AI and ML transforming banks? I know we hear a lot of about information about AI and ML, so it will be interesting to see how it's in the banking sector.
It is like, we see that one of the things that I think I highlighted in the presentation earlier, banks are looking to, and even our audience highlighted that automated decision, workflow efficiencies. Those are now driven. Automated decisioning, you need to have real-time data and real-time analytics, and those analytics are now dependent on AI ML workflows. They are using AI ML models to predict, hey, if I offer this loan at this certain rate to this customer, what are the chances of a default? They want to predict that and have a prediction before they make a loan offer to a customer, and then completely automate this whole process. If the prediction comes up, hey, there's very low probability of a default with this customer, then the entire loan approval just goes through automatically to the customer within a few minutes, and now the customer can move on to other things now that he's got his loan approved. We have a customer we have a banking customer who makes auto loans in the US, and they pride themselves in automated decisioning. And because they have this automated decisions for their car loan approval process, auto loan approval process, they are able to approve a lot more loans much more quickly, and then without having human intervention, which adds a lot of costs. So they are able to see better returns on their money because there is literally almost no person involved in the entire workflow. They use a lot of data, they use a lot of analytics, they use AI ML models to do it. They are a Redis customer, and we have many customers in the AI ML space who use Redis as a feature store to serve variables, essentially independent variables, to a data model, a ML data model that they want to use for prediction. They want to be able to serve it in real time, especially when a customer is there waiting to get a decision. They don't want to be seeing empty screen. They want to quickly get the decision. That means you need to be able to serve, predict the model, and then quickly make up your decision. And Suyo pointed this out too. There is also fraud detection that needs to happen. There needs to be profile checks. The entire loan approval workflow can be very complex, and you have to shrink it down and do it with very low latency. That is where Redis comes in. Across every single aspect of that workflow, you can use Redis, including AI ML, serving data to AI ML model. Suyog, any thoughts? So,
yeah, I think as I mentioned that banks is basically more focusing on the personalization experience for the users and making sure that how we are bringing better service to our users than the other competitors, right? So I look this machine learning is like how it is personalized in terms of recommendation, prevention, and prediction, so that it can be a better service. And it's come to the every service that bank is giving to the user today. I can remember when you basically used to use your cards or other ways of payments few years back, mostly because you might be in a different city, it used to get rejected, and then then probably you used to get a phone call that is this something fraud, right? Or SMS to revert. But today this AI things are changing because of the location services, or because of all the sort of data points that yes, this is organic traffic, right? Everybody mostly use that basically OTP generation for certain things, right? Imagine you are PIN generation is attached to your mobile SIM cards, right? So there is a lot of frauds happen. You will not understand, but the banks are very common use cases. Somebody is easily can generate new SIM card matching to the same IMEI number or basically the same phone number, and then they will try to generate PIN for your account, right? Lot of information is easily available. Somebody can easily hack your and generate new SIM and then kind of things. But every such kind of OTP request is going through the fraud analysis. Maybe this is a 1 or 2% of really fraud, but you don't want 99% users who are really users and really try to change. You don't want them to wait for 10 seconds or 20 seconds to tell okay, you are right person to do this. So this kind of a solutions are there. Payments, a lot of transaction scoring use cases, and not necessarily everything need to be built or using AI ML, right? Simple. I just want to know that this transaction is coming from the right IP address. It's not a blocked IP addresses. This is simple classic use case, right? You don't need to perform really inference queries for this. You just simply say that this is the IP address request coming from, and whether this is a fraud or not, right? So you simply use Redis key value pair, just do the key check, and then you're done. And this is happening within a few microsecond, I would say, right? And whether there is a 10 million such requests per second or 100 million, still you're getting same latency. And this is only possible because you are able to do it in a sub-millisecond latency kind of experience.
That is so true.
Yeah.
That is a very, very good point, Suyog. And, we don't, the AI ML, before AI ML, you just need to do some basic analytics to figure out. So that is very easy to do with Redis. Thank you for sharing those thoughts. So Rakila, back to you, please.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot, Prasanna. Thanks, Suyog, for sharing the thoughts. I know we are on time. I'm just going to launch the poll, third poll, which is just the feedback of the session. And while I launch the poll, let's also cover some questions which has come on the Q&A. So the first question which is there here is, how do Redis ensure data security of customers working from home in multi-cloud environment with no extra services or maintenance costs? Any response on that?
Suyog, would you like to take that?
Yeah, sure. So Redis is, as I mentioned, it's a flexible deployment model, whether it is deployed completely in a bank premises on public cloud. There's a lot of securities in terms of authentications. So basically you have role-based permissions. So based on the roles and the credentials that you pass on, it is completely supporting encryption in transit. So whatever the applications were trying to connect Redis, there is a TLS support. And you also have basically data at rest kind of encryption. So the data which is stored outside Redis is also encrypted. And there are other security features, which is in terms of authorization, authentications, all the TLS certificates when you basically accessing the administration portals. So there are 7 to 6 level of and then again audit trails, which also tells who is accessing what and what actions they're performing. You can restrict certain actions. Example, there are certain applications who do not have any permissions to perform any deletion, update, and insertions. You can block those features to set up users. And again, there are certain third-party authentication indications like LDAP indications, right, which is very common in the banking, where they are using third-party tools, like example Windows Active Directory, right? So that way they can also integrate from there, and then from there they can manage the roles and permissions and what they can users who are accessing Redis, right? So yeah, we have use cases where the Redis has been used as a completely wide public access, example gaming industry, and completely where under the blanket where there's no internet connectivity, it's on-premise banking solution. So everywhere Redis has been certified supporting that kind of deployments.
Great,
Thank you.
thanks. Yeah, with keeping the time, one last question which I would like ask, and everyone else other questions we will respond to you guys over email. One last question is, any training programs available for Redis?
There are some free training programs. Correct me if I'm wrong, Suyog. There are some free training programs available on our website. There is also videos and quick start videos on YouTube. There is also a developer site that you can go and access code. So there are multiple things that you can access to learn more. And you can
Great.
obviously, like the video in the beginning pointed out, you can obviously launch a free version of Redis in the cloud and then use that.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Prasanna. Thanks, guys. Thank you everyone for joining this session. If you have any questions, please reach out to Prasanna or Suyog, and we will connect with you guys with a different webinar again. Thanks. Have a good day.
Thank you.